Hey everyone, this is Ed. Welcome back to the channel. Those of you who know me know that I'm all about productivity and organization. And up until now, I've pretty much only reviewed or talked about specifically the RADA Supernote devices. Now, I want to start this video by saying that I still daily drive the Manta. It's my device of choice. When they come out with their A4 series, it's going to be really, really good. But I was encouraged by a good friend of mine, Kit Betts Masters, to at least reach out to Onyx, to Books, and see what they might have to offer and kind of start a conversation. And not just Kit, but Aaron over at 2530 Media and Rod at Rants About Tech and Jeffrey Moss. We've all had these conversations, Vlad Kostek as well, about different e-ink devices. And, I've never been in the camp that color was something I was actually looking for. But in talking back and forth with Books, originally I reached out to them just for the idea of reviewing maybe the Note Max because that kind of fit in the natural progression of things. But we had a good back and forth, and they said they were willing to send me, no strings attached, the Note Air Force C. And so after them looking at my content, I was kind of surprised, to be honest with you, that that's the device they would pick to send. And actually, they suggested that or the Palma. And I just told them flat out, the Palma, while an awesome e-reader from everything I've seen, is just too small for my use. It's not something that I feel that I would be able to use in my workflow. So anyway, here it is. And this is going to be your unboxing and getting ready for the Note Air 4C. Let's go ahead and jump into it. All right, so here we are with the Note Air 4C. And you've seen a lot of unboxing videos on these and a lot of impressions, but I just want to give you my thoughts, and I'm going to open it up and power it up for the first time just to see everything. We're not going to take a bunch of time to look at the nibs, but they give you some extra nibs here and a nib extraction tool. They also, obviously, this is the device itself, and then they gave me the cover. So let's go ahead and open up the cover first, and then we'll take the time to go through and open up the rest of it. So I do have to say I like their packaging. I've heard Rod talk about their packaging before. They don't use a lot of plastic. They do use some. I think Supernote kind of does more with just straight on paper packaging that I like, but Onyx doesn't use a ton. I mean, this is all really nice cardboard here for the cover, and I think that it's important to know that they're trying to do some of the right things. Sometimes plastic is just easier and even necessary in some cases to make things a little bit better to travel. And here's the case. And I've heard a lot of good things about this case. I mean, of course, it has the magnetic clip here for the pen. It has the foam insert that's keeping this all together. So the magnetic piece here is really good, and that's a pretty strong magnet. I've heard about the origami features. So I know Voya and Rod and a lot of people are very much into the fact that you can stand this up in a portrait mode. And we'll look a little bit of that. But I will tell you, it's a very nice cover. It feels like a good faux leather, and that's really welcoming and very nice. So I like that. The Books logo isn't obtrusive. It isn't like bumping out at you really heavy. So pretty cool. I like it. Now let's go ahead, and sorry for the key rattle, but I could not find my scissors. So we're going to go old school retail here and just poke through the plastic. Pop that open, and there you go. And we will get this open. So again, a nice presentation. I really like, this kind of etched. If you remember the old Fleer baseball cards, they had those kind of mirrored lettering. I kind of like that. I think it's cool. And, it's a good package overall. Very nice. This should just slide out, which it does. So I just slide that out, and then now you've got the inner package. I will go ahead and open this up, and there is the Note Air 4C. Nice pull tab there to get you up, and then this kind of wax paper, and I think that's actually, I wish that's what they had wrapped the other things in. But pretty nice. And now I'm going to pull that open. And I will say that, as someone who's not really seen the need for color, at least yet, and maybe this device will change that for me. I don't know. It does look pretty neat on the screen to see something other than black and white. I do have to admit that that's something I wasn't expecting when I took a look at this. I am noticing the very dark color. I will tell you that these are very lighted conditions because I have my light coming in from my windows. So it's pretty bright in here. And the screen I'm seeing is quite a bit darker. And that's that Kaleido 3 panel. But what I do like about this is there's no feeling there's no indentation. So when I did the MobiScribe Wave, the fact that they had the front light, you didn't have a flush screen here. On this, it's very flush all the way around. And of course, the build quality is what you expect. And you've seen from other reviewers that this is very well built. It's very hefty. It feels like it's metal because it is metal, and it's just all around a nice device. I will give it that. Very interesting. See what else we've got in the box before we move any further with this. And then we'll also put it in the cover and take a look at it, and then we'll power it up. So here you get some documentation. That's kind of a nice little pouch, little envelope that they have there. So you get your user manual and your other documentation. I already showed you the nibs, so there's no reason to go through those again. On this side, I'm assuming this is where we'll find our power cable and hopefully our stylus. As you know, that's going to be another thing for me that's going to be a different learning curve, is learning how to use another stylus. So here you get your SIM card removal tool, not SIM card, your SD card removal tool. This does come with expandable storage. And then you get your power charging cable, again in a nice wax paper, and that's an A to C cable. And you get your stylus. And I'm not sure. Yeah, I think this is just the regular book stylus. I don't think this is an eraser, but we'll see when we actually fire this thing up and take a look. And then it comes with this rubberized cap. As someone who comes from the Supernode ecosystem, this is a little harder of a pill to swallow just because of the fact that I'm so used to that pen. However, I will say, compared to some of the other traditional styli that I've used, this one does feel heftier. So it is fairly well balanced and weighted. It's not like a really cheap, flimsy piece of plastic. It's very robust. But again, it's still just a cylinder. It does not have a button on it. So that makes me think it's just the regular pen and not the Pro Pen version. There's a small, and you should be able to see this. Kind of shows you where the magnets are supposed to go for this. All right, so let's get the clutter out of the way and take a look at this. And again, this is a magnetic stylus. So if you take and leave your cap on or take your cap off, I don't know that I'll end up with that cap on very much, but this is going to stick to the side here. And wherever you place it, that's kind of the place it seems to fit the best, is right there in the middle. You go up, you start to lose that connectivity. Right here seems to be about the best place. And it's on there pretty good. I mean, I'm shaking decent. And what you could do, and we'll go ahead and put it in the cover here real quick. That flap is going to be a little bit interesting. And the magnet picks right up on that. I don't know if that came through, and it's tight on there. So even getting it off isn't the easiest thing. But if you watch, when I slide this on there, it picks up right there and right there. And now you have your cover. And that's also a sleep cover, I believe. Now, if you go ahead and let's put our pen on, and you get a nice, well, that was unexpected. Let's take off that cap. Put our pen on, close. Now you're closed, and you put your rubber piece there. And now you've got a nice little package. It is heavy, though. I will say that when you're used to something like the Manta, and I would assume the Go 10.3 with books, that this is going to be something that you're going to have to readjust yourself to. This is very much, it seems even a little heavier than the original A5X, but they're close. I would say they're very close as far as how heavy they are. But I will say the magnets are impressive as far as how well they hold. And then I just want to see if I can figure out how to do this origami case. Oh, there it is. Oh, there it is. That's not hard at all, actually. Once you get used to the way it folds. Anyway, you all are getting to see this in real time. So I'm still playing with it, still getting used to it. But overall, I think I'll really enjoy the magnetic case. And like I said, it is very strong. There is absolutely no problem with the magnets. It also explains why Kit has mentioned this device having issues when it comes to writing with the case on, because those are very strong magnets and those could really have some issues when you're talking about EMR. So let's go ahead and power this thing up. Let's find our power button, which is right here on the top. So right here, we'll hold that down. And here we go. I gotta admit, I'm pretty excited, and I'm excited not only because it's something I haven't used before, and I'm kind of a tech nerd and a tech junkie, but also because it's a different platform. And as I said, I've had a lot of people tell me that I should take a look at this. We'll go ahead through English, user agreement. Yes, we'll accept those. It's pretty responsive right now. It's got an incorrect date on it, but it had the local time right, or it says set date automatically, so we're in good shape. Has my correct time and date. Auto sleep, do 10 minutes for that. And then power off. I usually do about 8 hours for that. And then it's going to take me through the gestures. Now, I've never used this, so I'm actually going to go through these. I'm having a little trouble with the touch sensitivity. It may just be because of the angle I'm at. If I go up from the middle, it's telling me that that is back to the home screen. And I know I can do these later, so I'll do them a little bit later too. And then the e-ink center is supposed to be on this bottom right. Navigation, you have a lot of different options here. And you can choose your different styles, which I'll probably have to figure out as I go through. Here's the main interface, and there are the widgets, which I think is really unique, obviously, to this platform. There are no books in my library currently, but I can go here and I can get those installed, and we'll come back to that when we do the full review. And let me try to remember my quick switcher here. Oh, there we go. That took me back. So there's some navigation parts here on the bottom. Again, this is very new to me. So even though I use Android and use it a lot, it doesn't mean that I'm going to be perfect at this out of the gate. And Books does have a learning curve. So it's very important to understand that as we go through this, that I'm learning this along with you, and I'll do more videos that really point out the tools. But one thing I want to jump right into is I want to go ahead and open the e-ink center here. You can see the front light is already on by default. And I'm not as big a fan of the warm light, but you'll notice it's quite a bit up. And the fact that it is, that really shows you kind of what they're trying to accomplish to make this not look like a Kaleido device. And to be fair, with the light up like that, it looks pretty good. And you can definitely see some of these colors. Now, they're not as vibrant as what you're going to see on uh, say the Remarkable Paper Pro, but for Kaleido, I think this is that new oxide background that I've heard about. But let's go ahead and do a handwritten note, just because I'm a big note guy and that's kind of my thing. And let's go ahead and just go into a blank template for now, and we will create. Here, let me turn on the Wi-Fi. All right, so we're back. So now we're connected to Wi-Fi, and we will go ahead and go back to where we were. And again, this isn't going to be an in-depth review. I haven't done all of the things that I'm going to need to do. I have to do a lot with this little device to really understand what all it can do. But I am going to turn on all of the AI features so that it will do the scribbles and some of those other components that I've seen everybody use. I am noticing it's not the most responsive to touch right now, and I don't know whether that's just me or whether it's a new device, but we'll take a look at it. You get a lot of pen tools with this one, and you get your custom widths. This is the calligraphy pen. I've got it in black for now, and I'm just going to start writing a few things just to see how it feels. Let's try a different pen style here. Let's do a ballpoint pen because I love a ballpoint pen. There's a little bit of lag there for it to get started. And then let's try just a few colors because I'm interested to see how the color renders. So we'll go ahead and get out of that. And you'll see there was a lag there as well. Pretty neat though. I will give it that. It's a very interesting tool so far. And let's see if the scribbles actually work here. Oh, I don't have them on yet. Turn it on, turn it on. And then we will turn on text recognition as well. So see, it got some of it, got quite a bit. Not too bad for a first try out. And then let's see if the scribbles work. Yep, scribbles work. It doesn't hit everything. So I think there's a little bit. Oh, and it didn't take that at all. There we go. And then let's go ahead and lasso this and see if it does. Yep, the lasso. And then the AI function recognizes, turns that into text. Let's try a couple of more colors here just to see what we've got. The pen tools are a little, I mean, there's so much going on here. And so I do want to be really clear that there's just a lot. And you can see those colors are pretty vibrant. I hold this up. Pretty neat. I will say that the writing feel, but you can see I write pretty hard, and you may even be able to see that this nib is already. I can get this to focus here a little better. You may be able to see that this nib already almost feels like it's spinning a little. Now, that could just be me, or they could have given me a stylus that wasn't brand new, but you can definitely hear on this. You can definitely hear that scratchiness. And I don't know if the microphone's picking that up, but if not, I'll do a second test when we go to do this long term. But it's an interesting experience. I'm trying to see. Um, Again, sorry, you're going to see me use supernote gestures, and I apologize in advance for that. It's just what I'm used to. But this idea that let's try a thicker line here with these colors, and just to show. Yeah, that's really nice. And then they have the straight line tool, which allows you then to do a lot of things with that line. They also have the shape tool, which again, I'm going to have to dig into all of this at some point. It's just not something that I'm going to do in the unboxing. But overall, pretty cool. And then let's take a look and see if we can find something for writing. But one thing I do want to look at is the NeoReader. And I think it's really important for me to take a look at that and see if I can get to a book here. There should be, I thought, a bookstore. Maybe this is the store. Yeah, so this is the store right here. So right now we'll go ahead and we'll download The Tempest. And I know that books get some shade from some reviewers about having their bookstore be all public domain books. But at the same time, I think that's kind of cool. I mean, Project Gutenberg, I'm a huge fan of Project Gutenberg. I've said it before on this channel, and I'll say it again. I think it's one of the most awesome things out there. And you couple that with Overdrive and with Libby, and just there's a lot of free books and a lot of free access to information out there. The fact that they offer that in their store, I actually think is pretty cool. And I think it's something that should be celebrated, not something that should be complained about. Again, that may just be me, but it's something that's pretty cool. You've got your toolbar here, and you can go ahead and take some notes. So I can write right on here. I can change my pen style, go back to black, make it a little bit bigger, and then I can say, make a note here and go hello. And then I keep wanting to use 2 fingers. But yeah, I think that this is actually on first look very crisp, very clear to read, and the writability on the books is pretty cool. You can zoom in and out. I know that there are different settings available, which of course I haven't explored yet, but we will. As we can go through this, you'll see that there are a lot of different settings that can be enabled, and I'll just have to dig into those menus. So I have a lot of homework to do to really give this thing the justice it deserves. Again, I want to thank Books for sending this out. The idea that they're taking a chance in some ways by having someone who wasn't looking for color as their primary use case. But yeah, thank them for sending it out with no strings attached. And to send something like this out to someone who is not into the color space yet and is quite frankly a little skeptical about how useful it is for everyday use, that took some gumption on their part, because the idea being that I could very easily say, oh, color's useless. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to give it its full consideration. I will be very clear with you all on whether or not it's useful for me in my workflow. And I think that as we continue to go through this process together of learning this technology, you'll get to see kind of my way that I would use this device. And there will be some head-to-head comparisons between this device and the Supernote. That's just going to happen. And I think it's going to happen in a lot of ways because it's very important to have different options. So when folks are out there using these devices, making sure that you have all of the facts that you can. Again, nobody's going to be perfect. Nobody's going to cover everything. I'm going to have a different lens than Kit does. Brandon has a different lens. Rod has a different lens. Everybody that is in this space, Jeff Moss, all of us look at this differently. So for me, this is just a really good look at how this is starting to pay off. Let's look at one more book really quickly because I want to see something with a picture in it. It may not be, let's see if there are pictures here in Tom Sawyer. So I'm not really looking for the color pictures right now. We'll do that when we do the full unboxing, but you can see even here on the book titles that there are colors in here. But I am looking, like even here, you can see that the actual cover of the book itself is in color. And then I'll move on to the other pages. And so here's an image, and I think it's worth taking a look at. Yes, I want pinch to zoom. So, I mean, there's a little bit of color on this. It may not be coming through quite on camera, but it's almost like a print, like an old antiqued print. And I think that the detail is pretty good. I mean, and remember, this screen is going to be 150 PPI in color, 300 PPI in black and white. So you're going to get kind of a mixture, but some very nice details here. All right, everybody, welcome back. And thank you for hanging in there with me through this video. Appreciate it. Again, this is my first impressions with this device. I have been using it for several days this week. I've got some other videos in the works. This is being done a little bit after that unboxing, just because I ran out of time to include everything in it. But I do want to let you know that there are some things that were in the video that you're going to see that I've since found out, and I tried to add some of that into post. For example, this cover and my complete lack of the ability to make the origami cover work the way I wanted it to. It's much easier than the way I made it look. Again, new device, learning new tools. Same with several things on there. There are things, and we will get into a review of the cover later, especially around the way that it's very hard to write with the device in the cover just because of stability, and also just little things about the pen and making sure you put the cap on right, all these things that a new user is going to run into. But overall, first impressions of the device are very favorable. I am surprised in looking at some color documents and some different things that the color seems to be more vibrant than I thought it would. It's definitely never going to be an LCD screen. It's probably not even going to be the level of a Remarkable Paper Pro, but at the same time, you're not dealing with any flashing. So the device itself, because it's a stable color layer, makes a huge difference in that. Again, it is very early on. They added a beta. I've got an article that I'm going to link down that I just wrote on this as well that talks about some of this journey and the fact that here I get the device, there's all these reviews out there, there's all this information out there, and then BOOX goes and upends the operating system in a beta. And of course, me being who I am, I sign up for the beta immediately. And so now I've got things that even some hardcore long-term BOOX users haven't seen until now. And that includes infinite notes and just things that are going to be, I think, really powerful tools. But when you're trying to learn a brand new system and then you throw the beta on it, you're just going to have to bear with me and hopefully have fun with me along the way in learning some of these different strategies and ways that this can work into your flow. But until next time, thank you all so much. Please like, subscribe, jump into the comments below. Let me know your thoughts. What do you think about this new direction? What do you think about me reviewing different devices? Again, very selectively. I'm not going to be reviewing things that I wouldn't generally use. And, color was something that I didn't even have on my radar, really. It was nice of BOOX to send this with no strings attached, and I got to evaluate it, and I'm in process. Again, this is far from done. There are going to be a lot of different things that we're going to cover over the next few months with this device, but at the same time, I think it will be a great time. Again, please go and check out my Patreon page if you haven't signed up for the Introduction to Organization and Second Brain Systems course yet. Please go ahead, purchase that. You get that free. If you're a $5 supporter, you get a discount if you are a YouTube or Patreon insider. Thank you to all my patrons and insiders. You'll see them scrolling on the screen right now, but I will see you soon and keep moving forward. Have a great night.